Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
I'll ride with the horses, I'll swim through the sea, I'll climb to the mountain tops. Won't you come follow me? I'll take time to notice all that I see, and after I've come so far, you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. But life is a vision, that's how it should be. The world is a canvas, and the choices are free. At the end of the journey, where all is complete, they'll all wonder where I've gone, but you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. Our dreams last forever, for all that we know. The roads come together, and that's where we'll go.
The Pampas,
an elite wish we go away.
because we are
real and direct.
no interest owns us.
And we have no interest but the truth.
Together we are exposing.
Corruption.
Together we will reform criminal justice
Together.
We are fighting violence
against women and children.
We here at
Candid
will shine the light
on every corner of darkness.
Together, we are giving a voice
To the voiceless.
and forgotten.
Stay lit.
Together.
Together,
Together.
together,
Together. We are giving a voice to the voiceless and forgotten.
We are Candid News Group.
Buenas Marianas and Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Welcome to our studios here in Hagutnia, Guam. It is Friday, July 3rd.
It is your birthday, Eve.
Yes, yes. No one has let me forget that I turn 40 tomorrow.
We are finally the same age.
My friends love to remind me that I'm going to be 40, especially if they're older than I am. You know, especially.
Just my 6 months, Troy.
So thank you for joining us. Again, we were live this morning. We went over some issues, just more wonky budget issues. Tonight, we're going to continue a little bit of that wonkiness, but to go over an issue that the rest of the media just sort of glossed over, and it was the budget hearing that Pika Fejeran was at. Pika Fejeran is the outgoing chairwoman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and Senator Joseph Augustine held a budget hearing over the land agencies, which included the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, which recently was reorganized out of the Department of Land Management. And in part of the testimony that we're going to play tonight, that we're not playing tonight, but it was part of Pika's testimony, she was talking about how that rather sudden reorganization had an adverse effect on her agency, or on the agency where her board governs, the administrative director, who is Jack Hattig. And before we get into the clips that we've chosen from testimonies provided by Jack Hattig and by Pika Fejeran, where mainly Senator Therese Terlahi is asking questions. Just a little background. Pika Fejeran has been the chairwoman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission since, I believe it was 2016 or 2017, or at least a member since that time. She has had to endure a corruption scandal within the Chamorro Land Trust Agency that, as it turned out, dealt with some seediness in operations that went back for years. Some of it was mistakes. Some of it was
Plain old, I know you, let me help you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And she was the one, and her commission, they were the ones who had to clean up that mess.
Right.
And it was a substantial feat. She prepared an entire plan. See, if you all don't know, Pika Fejeran is one of the only urban planners on this island. She is a skilled program manager. She has skills that are very valuable to any organization that wants to succeed or grow. And her skill set, of course, was extremely valuable to the government of Guam, especially to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, especially during a time when it had to transition from the way it operated to the new way it needs to operate because of the settlement agreement that had to be signed. And so she has probably been the Chamorro Land Trust Commission chairperson who has had to deal with the most out of any chairperson of that commission has ever had to deal with. She's had to clean up a mess and at the same time move her agency forward, while at the same time not getting the support that she needed from either Governor Eddie Calvo or Governor Lulian Guerrero. And Governor Lulian Guerrero decided not to reappoint her. I don't know why.
Can I just state, just for the record,
Yeah.
Pika is my first cousin.
Cool.
Pika is...
She's Rosario?
She's
Ngongat?
Ngongat,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
She actually, during college, I was living in the States.
Okay.
She was attending USC,
Okay.
right? She never studied. And she still passed.
Oh, yeah, because I know Pika. I know she's very
She's a
smart.
very smart woman.
So Pika was the person who helped me in the visioning stage, and then the moving into the planning stages of the Imagine Guam program.
Oh, cool.
So it was this 50-year vision for Guam. Anyway, a lot of that was Pika Fejeran because of her understanding of urban planning, and she's just a very smart person. She's a visionary, and she's also meticulous. And she's a businesswoman. She and her husband Lenny own or started Pika's Cafe. They own a couple of other
Kadu,
restaurants. Yeah.
Owner of Kale.
And they recently were, and the senators were congratulating her during the hearing. They were saying, thank you for feeding so many people during this pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. And you'll never hear, she's just the kind of person you just never
humble.
hear
Her talk about
accolades
herself.
about herself. You'll just never hear it. If you see when you see her in in these clips, you're going to see she's just plainly dressed. She's plainly spoken. She just does not sound like a politician, which lends to our title tonight. Why isn't Pika Fejeran running for senator? She's just the kind of person who really should be in public office, but probably the kind of person who never will run for public office. But to start off, let's start with what Administrative Director Jack Hattig had to say at the beginning of the questioning about all the things wrong with the Tremont Land Trust Commission.
You have no problem with it right now?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. You already identified a retro of a salary for some of your employees. You're gonna settle that?
Yes, sir.
And how's your, I'm not even gonna ask you about your collection because you've already identified that. I don't have any other questions. Senator Therese, do you have any questions for Tomorrowland Trust Commission?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Hattig and Mr. Cruz. A couple questions. So the governor's request and your request are the same, and it's an increase of 21%, or about $215,000 for 21 versus FY20.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks like these increases are composed of 54,000 in personnel, 46,000 in contractual, 73,000 in equipment, and 48,000 in capital outlay. Could you just, it says, can you detail what these are for? It says for capital outlay and equipment that these are for laptops, desktops, tablets, UPS, batteries, and a server.
Can you pause it?
Yes.
Is that correct, or are there other?
Laptops, desktops, batteries, UPS, and servers for the Tremont Land Trust Commission under the survey fund. Now, of course, you can just imagine what the response is going to be to this. But if I'm not mistaken, the Tremont Land Trust Commission got these laptops and servers and UPS systems from the $117 million in Direct Aid CARES Act funding that the government of Guam got. So where this is coming from, I don't know. But you would think that the purpose of the Tremont Land Trust Commission was to get land out to as many applicants as quickly as possible. Yet, then the increase in the budget that they're asking for is laptops, desktops, etc. Go ahead and keep playing that clip. Sorry, I just wanted to interject there.
Items.
That's correct, Senator. As detailed in our budget submission, our laptops are reaching or have reached already their shelf life, and so we need a revitalization of our equipment to keep pace with the technological efforts. Also, we would like to go out into the field and give our land agents better equipment, obviously, to conduct GPS location coordinates and things of that nature. So we had indicated in our budget request for such equipment.
All right, but these look like you want them to come out of the CLTC Survey Infrastructure and Development Fund,
Yes.
which by statute is restricted for the subdivision, surveying, mapping, and registration of tracts of residential and agricultural land.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you believe these items fit that purpose?
These items are regularly used to provide information for the surveying. A lot of our software items, such as the GIS and LIS and other software items, are also on these computer systems. And so we reasoned that it would be prudent to put it on the Survey and Infrastructure Fund because they do support integrally support the survey function.
But will this get us any additional surveys to be done this year? Because I'm sure that was the purpose of that fund.
Correct. Yes, it's our anticipation because we did include an additional $41,000 as far as surveys are concerned. So we're hoping that that's going to move the process. That will move the process forward to get our surveying done.
So how much surveying do you expect to get done with the $41,000 you're saying?
Well, that's also dependent upon the actual cost of the surveys per the size of the land that we want to do. So obviously we're going to maximize every opportunity to survey as much as we can given the amount that we've requested.
Can you give me an estimate based on your experience? You guys have been doing this for a long time. one survey, my understanding, yeah, what was your average cost? Or just describe a tract of land and what we can expect. It doesn't seem like enough. That's why I'm asking.
Of
If you
course.
could just describe how far you think that 41,000 is going to go.
We anticipate that perhaps, and this is a conservative estimate, that there may be 100 surveys may be performed.
Can you pause it here?
Again, we're working with the Department of Land Management.
There's over 11,000 acres in outstanding Chamorro Land Trust land. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 9,000 applicants on the waiting list. The Chamorro Land Trust Commission, for its existence over the next fiscal year, wants to survey just 100 tracts of land. 100, a conservative figure, but I'll bet you if they go at the rate that they're going now, they're not going to even survey 100 tracts of land, even if they got that $41,000. And you're going to see why upcoming in this same clip. Go ahead and continue.
Obviously, to try to, because they are the only territorial surveyor. So we're working on an opportunity for us to work together on these surveys, but that's a conservative estimate.
Were any surveys completed in FY20 for Chamorro Land Trust properties?
Currently, right now, there are three surveys that are to be performed for Chamorro Land Trust specifically.
3 to be completed, you're saying, by the end of the fiscal year?
That's the anticipation.
And how much did those cost? The 3? Mr. Cruz, you can.
Currently, because we work with the Department of Land Management, there was no cost associated with those surveys.
So you're assigning your personnel there and they are helping land management with the surveys, and in exchange, they don't charge you for the surveys?
Correct. And we work on a case-by-case basis, obviously, and a lot of it also is pursuant to our commercial tracts of land, because those help bring in money and revenue to the trust to help sustain its operations.
I'm sorry, repeat that part about the commercial?
They also help us commercial properties. We can realize our commercial properties.
What are the 3 tracts that are being surveyed?
I know currently one is slated for lot 157. That's the Weddingale Rugby Field, and that's to help resolve the longstanding conflict between the two incorporated entities.
And
So that's
part of
one.
your settlement was that you were going to bear the cost of the survey?
That us in bearing the cost of the surveys.
For the Weddingale and the
For
rugby?
the associated tracts that are there, the lots that are there.
Okay. And what are the other 2 being surveyed?
I'm sorry?
You said there were 3 lots being
Yeah,
surveyed.
there's a lot for Guam Rugby, there's a lot for House Angels, and then there's a Chamorro Land Trust lot that's adjacent that is affected, the survey is affected.
So you're saying those are what you're counting as the 3 surveys being done for FY20?
Currently, right now, yes.
No residential tracts?
Not to my knowledge yet.
All right, there's also an increase.
Jesus Christ. Holy cow.
Jesus Cruz. 3 lots, all in the same area.
None of them residential. None of them. For the Chamorro Land Trust Commission.
And they incur the costs.
Chamorros don't even run the land that rugby field is on. I just want you to know that. Just, FYI. Yes, and as Senator Sherlahi points out rather incredulously, you guys signed this settlement. You guys have to bear the cost of it. So stupid. This is what happens when you do not have competent managers in place.
And they just lost one.
Yeah, so this is the point. So I went to watch this hearing to see what Pika Fejeran had to say, and then I rewinded it to see what Jack Hattig had to say, because when I saw Pika, she looked like she was like, F this shizzle, peace out, Gov Guam. I'm done with this. This is so frustrating. And then when I rewinded, because I was like, I wonder why Pika looks like that, And then when I rewinded, I saw this part of the hearing with Jack Hattig. And thank goodness for Senator Therese Sherlahi. And to be fair, we're not playing the clips of it, but Senators Hello Taidigui also asked some pretty tough questions to It wasn't just to Jack Hattick, but also to the others who were testifying for their budgets as well. But the main parts of this, those are the clips that we're bringing tonight. So the whole purpose of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission is to get land to the applicants.
To the landless.
Well, no, not necessarily landless. Not necessarily. Because you don't have to be landless to get Chamorro Land Trust land. But, you know, normally the people who are applying for Chamorro Land Trust land for residential, yeah, they don't have their own land. They're renting or they're staying with family or whatever. They're homeless. Whatever the case may be, right? And you would think, and Pika Fejeran makes this point. She says, I don't know anywhere else in the United States that has as much unregistered land as Guam does. And the point that she's trying to make is unused, undeveloped land is useless land. It is, and it can be, if it was given, even if it was given for free to someone, that has a more positive effect on the economy as a whole, because then they do something with the land. Then there's construction of something. Then the person desires to go to work so they can do the construction, and then they pay bills and they pay property taxes. Land is a very economic sort of thing. And so the Chamorro Land Trust Commission plays a very important role in the economic development of the island, considering that a third of the land of this island is government of Guam controlled. And the parts that are not being used by the government of Guam for like schools and police precincts and all that are part of the Chamorro Land Trust land bank. And so it's a lot of land. And in order for that, the reason why there's so much unregistered land is because it's not surveyed. And so you would think that if there was anything that the Chamorro Land Trust Commission
survey them, get it out, get it out.
And in this entire fiscal year that Jack Hattick has been the administrative director, he says, I think 3 that will be performed, not done. So 0 is done right now for this fiscal year, 0. So I just have to wonder, what did we pay the Chamorro Land Trust Commission or agency for? Top, why did we pay $75,000-$85,000 to its administrative director to
and he wants more money.
Does he?
In the budget, he's asking for more money.
Yes. For laptops, desktops.
Yeah. They're outdated. The shelf life's over.
And so the money that they want to use to buy these laptops, desktops, UPS, whatever, they want it to come out of the survey fund, the fund that's supposed to pay for the surveys. And Pika Fejeran, in her testimony, she makes a point. She says, you know, when the government of Guam created the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, it was given a mandate to get these lands out. One of the things that we should not have been stuck with the bill to pay is the cost to turn over these unregistered lands into registered lands, so the survey costs. But, you know, be it as it may, we've existed so far and we've done whatever, but things have gotten trying because the governor transferred $600,000 out of that fund and hasn't returned it. See, that's the part of this equation that's missing in the budget deliberations on Chamorro Land Trust, is the governor wants a $41,000 increase, but she hasn't returned $600,000 that she took away from that survey fund. So if anyone thinks that, you know, this is my island, Ray, and Biba Chamorro and all that stuff, the governor has not been very Biba Chamorro when it came down to doing the actual work and taking actions to preserve the land for the Chamorro people. So let's hear the second clip, and this is Pika Fejeran testifying about that survey fund.
I believe that the Survey and Infrastructure Fund, if it's used appropriately, can solve a lot of the issues that our current leaseholders have. As you mentioned, there's no access, there's no infrastructure for power, for them to get power, getting water to the lots, or even sewer services. And it is prohibitively priced if they were to go out and do it themselves. So it has been a goal of the commission, actually one of our priorities, that we presented last February when we got our new director, Mr. Hattick. that he works with the utility agencies to find out how we can go about this in a methodical way to get surveys and infrastructure done so that our leaseholders can actually do something with the land. And, unfortunately, it has not progressed to where I would like it to progress, but as I understand it, the director has met with the utility agencies. Unfortunately, there has not been, I have not seen anything proposed or discussed at the commission level to use the funds in the way I believe the funds were created and were meant to be used. For land registration, I believe that land registration should not be a cost borne by the Chamorro Land Trust Agency. It should be borne by the government of Guam through the Department of Land Management. When the Chamorro Land Trust was created, our inventory included so much unregistered land. And I don't know where else in the United States there's unregistered land, but there's a lot here. And it's time consuming and costly to get those lands registered, and it should not be a burden of the land trust. It should have already been registered and given over to the land trust ready for leasing. Because by law, we cannot lease lands that are unregistered. I believe also this was discussed at our last meeting, and the vice chair, who is a retiree from the Department of Land Management, also cited a couple of laws that basically said that the cost should not be borne by the land trust. It should be borne by Department of Land Management. Director Hattig assured us that he would go back and speak with Mr. Borja from Land Management to ensure that the memorandum of agreement that they're working on includes that. So I don't know where that is today. The 600,000+ that was transferred out of the land trust funds, I believe that was in 2017, that we had to write off on our audit. We have been trying to engage with the administration to get the money back, because we did see that other special funds that had money transferred out of it, they did get their money back. So we're just, kind of hoping that the Chamorro Land Trust will also be afforded that opportunity.
So, I mean, there you can tell how thoughtful she is. She knows what she's talking about. But I don't know if you noticed something else. And this testimony that was given is about what is it, an hour and 10-15 minutes apart from each other, right?
Yep.
According to the timestamps.
Yes.
They belong to the same. Jack Hattig is the administrative director of the Chamorro Land Trust Agency, and Pika Fejeran is the chairwoman of the commission that makes the policy decisions and that has oversight over the administrative director. But, of course, politics plays into this. The administrative director, of course, always is appointed by the governor. It's the governor's choice, and he or she is part of the governor's cabinet. So it's what the governor wants, basically, that how the administrative director goes about the work of the agency. If you notice, they weren't together to testify at the same time. So it's my understanding, according to legislative sources, that Senator Joseph Augustine and the administration did not want Pika Fejeran to testify at the same time as Jack Hattig and Mr. Cruz, who was the ASO for the agency, the one who actually knows the budget numbers and all that stuff. And why wouldn't they want Pika Fejeran to testify at the same time as Jack Hattig? Of course, it would be because someone like Senator Teresa Lahi would ask a very pointed question, and Pika would have the actual answer, and Jack Hattig would have the political answer, and those answers won't always mesh together. And that's why you see Pika Fejeran testifying by herself. And I think it looked like she wanted to testify. She announced it. She only has a few more days left as the chairwoman of the commission. She could have just been like, peace out, I'm not coming to this hearing. But the senators really did want to hear what she had to say, especially Senator Teresa Lahi and Senator Tello Taitigui. But here's an example, and for all you senatorial candidates and senators listening tonight, I want to show you, it's a short clip. It came after Senator Terlahi was asking Pika Fejeran a whole bunch of questions, and you really should take the time to listen to this entire budget hearing because it's very informative and it's very educational and it's interesting. But there is this one short clip that I want to show you, especially those of you who are running for office, of what not to be as a public servant. And that is, well, let's show the clip first and I'll tell you what not to be means.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Therese. One simple question. The commission, is that an operation commission or is it a policy commission?
I'm sorry, operational or policy?
You're both?
I'm not sure. What do you mean?
In other words, does the commission have the authority to direct the Chamorro Trust folks in everything they do?
We have the authority to direct the administrative director. And then he takes our direction and then, organizes his staff appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Madam Vice, do you have any questions on Ms. Pika?
What was that question for?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions. Thank you for the detailed explanation of the settlement for the people so that they understand. I think not many of us are aware of the SID fund and how it should be appropriately used. There is the oversight chair brought a concern that we're using this for laptops and computers when we should be using it for something more concrete and long-lasting like surveying and so forth. And I'd also like to thank you.
In the case of Senator Joseph Augustine's very stupid question, the lesson here is don't be a stupid senator. If you are running for senator or if you are a senator already, please, in the 36th Guam legislature, do us all a favor and don't be a stupid senator. That was a stupid question. I don't know how ridiculous. You see Pika Fejeran, she was like, I don't know
what you're saying.
And like, thank God that the mask didn't cover her eyes so that we could see them rolling down Marine Corps Drive as she was saying. But you see, Joe Snoz, he was very forceful. He probably got a text from Carlo Branch. Why don't you say this, Senator? Say this to Pika because we don't like Pika. So did you see him? He was like, is this a policy commission or an operations commission? What? Oh my God, sit down. And that's what Pika Fejeran basically told him to do. But then the second part, and I like Vice Speaker Selena Nelson. I think she stands up for truth and justice and all. But Senator, if you do not know what the SID fund is for, then there are some problems there. If you were unaware that the Survey Infrastructure Development Fund and the Chamorro Land Trust Commission was for surveying and not for the purchase of laptops, desktops, and UPS servers or batteries and servers, you might want to reevaluate your election this year because, and I mean that with all due respect to you and with my admiration for those times that you have stood up for truth and justice, but please get with the program right away because you're likely going to get reelected. And the people of Guam really need you to
step it up
and understand these issues. This is a problem. And it's a fund, so it's within the realm of it's what the legislature does. It funds things. The legislature created the fund. It's a mandate of senators. And so if you were unaware, and she said, and she didn't just say her, she said many of us are unaware. I want to know how many senators are unaware of the purpose of this fund. Because it's not just some measly fund. You know, it's one of the major funds of the government of Guam that has a major purpose, you know? Now, I can understand, senators, if you don't understand what a rainy day fund is because we've never actually used it in the history of the government of Guam. Fine, but the Survey Infrastructure Development Fund is vital to the existence and the perpetuation of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission and the Chamorro Land Trust Agency. Now, we're going to have an opportunity now to speak with someone who can tell us more about another matter of fiscal responsibility and accountability. And it's Senator Telos Hariwi. Let me just get, hold on, my laptop. Now, Senator Tello Taitigui, along with Therese Terlahi and a couple of other people, they introduced a bill. Let me read it to you real fast. Bill 371 is introduced by her, Therese Terlahi, Jim Moylan, and Joseph Augustine, seeking to prohibit Adelup from spending excess general fund revenues without legislative approval. It will require that all unappropriated annual general fund revenues collected in excess of appropriations be used to liquidate obligations for refunds, earned income tax credits, and prior year's vendor payables. In a nutshell, Senator Tello Taitigui wants the governor to stop using excess revenues as she pleases because that's unconstitutional, and force the governor to use excess revenues to pay tax refunds. Simple as that, and vendor payables. So let's call Senator Tello Taitigui now. We'll get her on the line to talk about this a little.
You weren't going to call from there? Or you
It's
can't?
not showing up on the FaceTime thing. Oh, I think she's on the phone. Hi, Senator.
Hi.
Hi.
So we're not on FaceTime?
No, I didn't know how to make it work for my laptop. You're not showing up in the thing. Yeah, no, it's okay
Don't
though.
worry, sorry.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Johnny and Eric are here as well as Kandit.
Hi, Senator.
Hey, who's here? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. The dog was barking. Go ahead.
Oh no,
It's Johnny.
Johnny and Eric and
Hey,
Kandit
Johnny.
and Kandit Land
Hi.
Hey, Candid Land. Hey, Johnny. And Eric?
and Eric.
Eric, right?
Yes. So, Senator, we were
Okay,
just
thank you.
talking about how Bill 371, if it passes into law, will stop the governor from using excess revenues that come in at the end or by the end of the fiscal year. Revenues came in and it was above projections, and what the governor's not supposed to be used. That's unconstitutional for the governor to do that, first of all. But secondly, you want to force the governor to use excess revenues to pay tax refunds and prior year vendor payables. Can you talk to us more about why you did this and what you hope this bill will accomplish in the coming years?
Well, the first thing I wanted to accomplish is accountability. And the second one is to be consistent. There's a law that, I guess it's easy to explain first. There's a law that was created called the Rainy Day Fund. And it's in Article 9. And it creates this rainy day fund that any excess revenue or any funding goes into this rainy day fund. And it clearly states in this law that the fund shall be expended by appropriation by law.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever money is in this rainy day fund, it has to be appropriated by the legislature. However, there was another section of the Guam Code annotated in Article 4, which actually puts a cap on, it talks about the rainy day fund, and it puts a cap on it, on how much to put in the fund, 2%. Until the deficit is paid off, it shall place 2%, and also it describes what it will be paid for too, tax refunds, EITC, prior vendor obligations. And it also has a section in there that allows it for the cap to be lifted in the event it's in a state of emergency.
Okay.
Now, what happened was, so you have these two accounts, right? One that says shall be appropriated by the legislature, by law. And then you have a section here that talks about what it's going to pay and the cap of how much you're to put in there. What's basically the requirement to put in every year, which was done in 2010.
Okay.
Now, what happened is when there was excess revenue, about first it was brought out that there was $27 million in excess revenue. And then it started dwindling down to about $23 million. And then if you recall, Troy and Kandit Land and Johnny and Eric that's there, remember in December, many of the senators started introducing legislation to use that appropriation. Chief Shalahi did one in the budget bill, which was $10 million for the hospital.
Yeah.
I did one, which I've been advocating for, is fixing our doggone roads.
Yeah.
And I had a bill out there to appropriate that. So at that time, then the governor, around January, February, probably the end of January, beginning of February, said it in the media as well, and made an announcement that she was going to use this excess revenue to cover any shortfalls. But if you look at the law clearly says from prior year obligations, year, not for 2020, which we're in this fiscal year. So I was looking at the law and thinking, okay, where does it give her the authority to do this, to utilize this money? And so I looked at the law and I saw this inconsistency. So I decided to send a letter to the governor's office and ask them, where in the law does it say it gives you the authority to spend any excess revenue? And for everyone who's listening, excess revenue, of course, is, we said there's going to be $800 million in appropriations, and that's what we estimate, but actually what came in was $837 million. Then that 37 is excess. It's never been realized.
Yeah, but Senator, I mean, just to be real about it, there is no such thing as excess when there still is huge payable to taxpayers in the form of refunds and vendor payables that are aging at now 240 to 360 days, right?
Right.
So excess is kind of a misnomer.
Right. So there is no doubt in my mind that excess revenue was intended back when this law was created to cover the tax refunds, the EITC, the prior year obligations. But it's the process and the accountability that's missing here. It's two separate parts of the Guam Code annotated that is not clear. So when the governor responded to me, which I was really surprised, didn't take very long, and cited, 2243, which is Article 4, which I told you earlier about, which provides a cap and what things you can pay for, and the state of emergency, the earned income tax. So she quoted that. But still, myself as well as the legal at the legislature, we didn't think this is correct. So we sent that opinion by the governor's office and sent it to Leland Camacho, the Attorney General's office, and asked him for an opinion. Well, it took quite a bit of time before we got one back, but sure enough, he duplicates exactly what the governor says.
Well, of course, he's the governor's attorney.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we figured that's going to happen anyway because he's going to find out. But he makes it clear that the authority, the Organic Act, allows the legislature. It's our responsibility for appropriation. So there's a check and balance if this is not true to form, and it's contradictive. The law is contradictive. Where has she been getting the money to pay the war claims that came out? What is she doing with, the biggest part, I'm sorry to get ahead of myself, to try and ask all these other questions, but if she's able to spend on paying prior year tax refunds, any EITC that's stipulated in the law to allow for excess revenue to be spent on, it has to go into the rainy day fund first.
Okay.
When it goes into the rainy day fund, if you look at Article 9229003, it clearly says, shall be expended by an appropriation by law.
Okay.
So how is it that she's able to spend this money? And is she putting it in the rainy day fund? Now, in January, we asked Ed Byrne when he came to the legislature, when we were discussing, the question was, how much is in the rainy day fund? Because they're supposed to take X amount of dollars every quarter, right? He said 0. There's no money in there.
Yeah, because the rainy day fund is not a cash. It's not a cash fund. It's a budget fund. So the person to have asked was Lester Carlson. But Senator, the conversation is getting too policy wonky. No, it's fine. I think the thing that people really want to know about is how does this affect tax refunds and what the government owes to its vendors.
How does it affect it?
Tax refunds, yes.
Well, the process on paying it out, the accountability, what is required by law on how to pay it out,
So basically, you're correcting or you're clarifying a law to clarify the legislature's intention and force the governor to use the money to pay for tax refunds and vendor payables.
And the legislature, most especially, has, I mean, this is how it rolls, right? You know, the governor spends the money, we appropriate the money. You know, we're holding the accounting, you know, for what is going to be paid for this and what is going to be paid. That's our job. You know, in the organic tax reform, it's our authority to do that. But this is not allowing us to do that because the governor is going to go ahead and spend this excess revenue, and we're not even going to know about it.
Yeah.
Until when? I mean, we still haven't got an audit out on how much excess revenue is there.
Yeah.
And are they going to claim it as excess revenue after they start paying the payables out, like the prior year obligations and vendors? They can start paying. But the most important thing here is the law says the money must go into this rainy day fund.
Yeah.
And from there it gets extended out by law, but it's never been done. So this is basically, you know, a loophole that every lawyer looks for, you know, in order to get something they want done without really truly following the law or the intent. So it's accountability and it's consistency. This is what this bill will do. And I'm really hoping Troy, Johnny, and Eric and Kandit land that the oversight chair hears this bill, because if this bill is going to be, you betcha 10 to 1, there's going to be several of us asking the tough questions. Where is the funding? What have you been spending this or any money on? Where are you getting this money to pay this, to pay that? You know, this is an opportunity to do it, because when are we going to get an oversight hearing? The minority or the majority, when is the last time we've had an oversight?
Well, I just think that the chairman of the finance committee of the legislature just is not competent enough to ask the tough questions related to the finances of the government in that oversight hearing. That's probably why we just had a whole discussion about incompetent senators in the Guam legislature, and we gave you a pass on that. We were like, you know, we like the tough questions that Senator Chelo Sadigui asks.
Thank you.
But it's an issue, Senator. You know, so well, first of all, thank you for explaining your bill to us, and that it's a bill to hurry along the payment of tax refunds and vendor payables by demanding accountability from the administration. But if we could leave this conversation,
it's to find the money, Troy. It's finding the money. Where is the money?
If we could leave this the conversation with this, we hope you're able to engage your colleagues who have been less than competent in understanding their role as senators, as not being stooges for the governor, and actually understanding these funds, these processes, the finances, and the budget of the government of Guam. I mean, that's why the people of Guam elected 15 senators.
Yes, about accountability. It's everybody's taxpaying. This is your money. This is my money. This is everybody who's listening's money who they pay their taxes on. You know, and this is what we have to make sure it's accountable for. You know, and if we don't, you know, if we don't ask the hard questions, if we don't, you know, correct laws that have been basically given loopholes for anybody who's been spending out there and allowing them to spend without any accountability, you know, what is our job? Our job is to create laws and to correct this legislation. And I have to tell you, I've got 4 people, I mean, counting myself as 4, but Therese Terlahi is the first co-sponsor on this bill.
Yes.
And Jim Moylan, you know, and we've been screaming out accountability. And I was able to ask Senator Joe St. to be the third co-sponsor. So hoping he sees this, that he realizes this is an issue, because if I'm not mistaken, and he did mention earlier on in January, where does the governor have the authority to spend this funding?
Well,
you know,
I'm glad he asked that question. Maybe he should make it louder for the administration trolls in the back.
Well, if he's true to form on signing on to this bill, he'll have a public hearing. If this bill is transferred to his committee, which I think it is, then we'll know if it's true to form.
Thank you, Senator, for your time.
Everybody out there, I'm asking everybody out there who's listening, please, it's easy to find their email. Troy knows every senator's email and sometimes their cell phone number. So please reach out to Senator St. Augustine to request for the public hearing on this bill, because I bet you when this bill has a public hearing, there's going to be a lot of questions that have been unanswered by this administration on accountability and transparency. The true money, you follow the money, and then you can find where they have been wronging people of law.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
They need to be accounted for.
Thank you so much, Senator. We very much appreciate your time, and happy birthday to America.
Happy birthday. It's Troy's birthday eve. His birthday's tomorrow.
Yes. Happy birthday. Shall we all sing?
Oh, we want to hear you sing, but don't sing happy birthday. Can you sing something else? Can't wait. What I know you can sing everything, but wait, what's a good song?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is like, first I was afraid, I was petrified, just thinking I could never live without you by my side.
I love it. I love you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye. Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
That was Senator Celos Heidigui talking to us about how upset she is about the lack of accountability and transparency in the executive branch, and how that has translated into tax refunds not being paid on time, vendor payables that are aging more and more as the days go by. And she talked about how there will be senators asking tough questions. Let's hope so. Mm-hmm. You know, it's always heartwarming to see senators getting their act together closer and closer to the election. So she said Joe Augustine's a co-sponsor. Gee, I wonder why. Mm-hmm. I wonder why Joe Augustine's a co-sponsor on this.
No, but that was a stupid question.
That Joe Augustine asked? It was a very stupid question. You could see, I'm telling you, Pika's eyes were rolling down Marine Corps Drive. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario. Good night.